one friend. Situations in life coming, you gotta trust them. Found out many times in life you can't trust men. So I rolled solo, that process was an adjustment. Friends let you down, not around when you're needing them. Only here to take like a child, got you feeding them. Better off leaving them like salt, that's the seasoning. Killing black people, that sugar really depleting them. Knowledge over ignorance, rising above predicaments. Fighting for equality, speaking for all the innocents. These drugs they been giving us, turning our people vigilant. Innocent dissidents, violence is coming imminent. Gotta fall a couple times to learn the lessons faster. Thinking will it matter if I skip a couple chapters? This life that I'm after got me climbing up the ladder. Won't be another rapper, bankrupt with the chapter. On another mission to get rich, it's big chips. Head past the crown on solid ground, the kid switch. On another level, these devils can't block the business. The kid get psycho with a rifle, get your wig split. Change the game passively in the back, so happily. Jersey. Another edition of the Community Soldier Podcast, featuring me, your host, Justin Counts. Today we got a special guest. We got a good friend of mine, a guy I ended up meeting during my time in the Michigan Department of Corrections. But let me introduce you to my brother, Jadei McPeak. How's it going, brother?
It's going good, man. I'm glad to be here. It's
Man,
been
it's
a
good
long
to see
time.
you. Yes, sir. It's been a long time, man. Give the people a quick intro. Tell them about yourself real quick.
I'm out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Born in Lansing. Uh, got involved with ministry in my time in prison. I met Justin. We became good friends. Got out, obtained my bachelor's degree. Stayed involved in ministry and also in community work. Uh,
Nice, nice. So tell me, let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about how we met. You know, I met you in during the time where I was looking to change my life. Um, I want to start by one of the reasons why I wanted to interview you because you were very impactful in my own personal journey. Um, I think that it was very important for me to find you, you know, while I was in there, and I think that's why we had got connected so fast. Um, but the influence that you had on me was major, man, and I never really got a chance to tell you that. So I just wanted to give you that acknowledgement, brother, to let you know that your journey, it actually inspired and helped me change my life. So I definitely wanted to make sure I started off with giving you that acknowledgement.
oh man, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, man. People that I have met have helped build me to where I felt like I needed to keep going or keep myself in a certain way. There's many times to where I could have just and we're all human. I could have just slid off and did something else. You know what I mean? It's too easy. But I got people who like we or you. Um, that help me remind I need to just stay focused, you know what I mean? Because y'all doing so good. Just the people that's around me, y'all doing well. I'm looking like, yeah, I gotta keep this, I gotta keep going because my brothers are still, they shining, man. I gotta shine like them,
That's good
you know.
motivation. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It's definitely good motivation to keep focused. Because one of the main things that I know I was worried about was when you come home to the world and you have so many distractions, right? And you have so much noise. It's really easy to lock in. You know, when you're inside, you know you're close to God because you're just in tune with that energy. You know, you're in tune with the word. You're in tune with the feeling. And when you get outside, there's just so many more distractions that can get in the way of that if you allow it to. So to be able to continue that journey that you started, you know, inside, it's amazing. So let's go back to talking about one of the things that I know. that inspired me about you. You learned how to read, what was it, Hebrew while you were incarcerated?
Oh yeah, yep.
How did you go about learning that,
So during that time period, there was a lot of discussion, which this same discussion is going on today about the King James Version Bible is tampered with and is not the real Bible. So what sparked my interest was that people kept saying we need to go back to the original text and we need to learn from what the original texts were saying, and then we can go off that and say what was what. So there was a guy there that first I met some Messianic Jews who didn't mind talking to black people. Basically, didn't mind talking to black people and teaching them their language. So they taught me a couple words here and there. They gave me the Hebrew Bible, not Bible, but the dictionary. Helped me with the alphabet. I moved from that facility to JCS, and I met another guy who had a similar dictionary. And then from there, I was just trying to learn like the alphabet, because once you learn the alphabet, you can kind of pronounce the words. Um, and I learned a little bit of Hebrew. They basically learned a little bit of Hebrew, but when I started reading the Hebrew Bible, I saw that whatever the King James version said was pretty much the same thing this was saying, because
man?
the Hebrew Bible had the the English meaning under it, and the Messianic Jews and that other guy would confirm, yeah, that's what that word means.
Hmm.
Uh, and some of the words had more depth than what the English version was saying. It would say like only the cusp of what uh, the Hebrew word would actually say, or it might even like politically correct, like because some of the things that the Hebrew version was saying could have been, I mean, it can come across very offensive if it's said in the way that it was written, basically. You know what I mean? If it was said
Yeah.
exactly that. So the King James, in a sense, in some areas, kind of gave it a like a political correctness to certain words.
Hmm.
Um,
But
yeah.
during your time studying like the Hebrew language, did you come to realize how weak our English vernacular really is in comparison?
Yeah, yep. And how like some words are like useless. I think of like of, then, and like certain words we have of, then, and those are like filler words. They don't really have that. They just have like the word, and you know what you mean
That
by
word.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What made me come to that understanding is when we got to breaking down the Hebrew word for peace in the scriptures. When Jesus said the peace that I leave you surpasses all understanding. You know, when you read that verse in the English vernacular, um, you may think like, one of several things, but when you actually study the ancient word, you start to find out like it's more in depth than that.
Right.
Yeah, that's an amazing thing when you get to study in the scriptures. And you were one of the people that made me want to do that. Um, what what made you want to take such a deep dive into the scriptures? I mean, I've met a lot of ministers. I've met a lot of pastors in my time working in the community, and what I've come to find is that a lot of them, and this is no knock on anyone, but a lot of them don't have this expanse level of knowledge. You know that a lot of them don't take the time to study. Really deep dive into the scriptures. What made you want to take such a deep dive into the scriptures like that?
I believe it started with talking to people who were basically questioning the Bible. When I started um, reading the scriptures, I had a basic understand, or I had an understanding that associated with mostly traditional Christian believers. I'll say it like that. And I was approached by people who basically are looking to like test what you know, and at the same time question, like shake your faith, shake you to where it'll try to convert you to what they believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my first encounter with these people, they made me look like a fool. I was like, wow, man, these guys, they really know scripture. They're not even believers, and etc. A hunger grew in me from that time, and I believe the Holy Spirit placed that hunger there to where not only I continue to read every chapter, every verse, but also He had me to go and be taught by some people. Like you, He basically led me. Hey, you need to come talk to them. Hey, you need to come talk to him. Hey, you need to come talk to whoever to understand what what need to be understood. And so I was then approached after gaining certain maturity. I was approached again, and I saw that, oh, what the Lord was doing in me. He was giving me these roots. And when I was approached again with the same the slander of whatever they say against the Bible, and the deceptions, when I was approached with them, they couldn't do the same deceptions. They knew then something was different. They was like, wait a minute, I didn't know nothing about this. I'm like, oh, you didn't? It's right here, or whatever, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that told me the more I stay in His Word, uh, the more mature in the faith I will get, the more in depth of the Word that I will receive. Jesus said that man should not live on bread alone, but every word. It doesn't make sense to put words and bread in the same scripture, because then what are we talking about? He couldn't have been talking about actual bread. So when He was saying that you shouldn't live on bread alone, but every word, He's saying there are some shallow, basic understanding of the word that every man should eat, every man can eat. But then there are certain things, every word that proceeded out the mouth of God, there are certain things that are for you, for the in-house, the deeper things only that you can understand, because you didn't have the conversion. You have the Holy Spirit in you.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess so. To answer that question, it was God that made that made me want to search the deeper things of Him in that way. In that way, that's how He made me want to do that.
Yes, yes. It's definitely how it happened for me as well.
Yeah.
For people that are watching that, well, they definitely don't know you, um, being that my core audience is from Jackson, but I want them to get an understanding of who you were before you changed your life, before God saved you. What kind of guy were you?
Oh, man, a guy from Grand Rapids that was from the street, basically. I had three armed robbery cases. My brother was, a tough dude, and I hung out with basically the wrong group of people, man. That's basically what it was. Um, got into a lot of fights. Even my first 2 years of incarceration, I was getting into fights and I was gambling.
Mm,
Um, hanging out with the Grand Rapids cats, etc. But after I got flopped that first time,
uh-huh.
uh, I just knew God. I knew God needed to change something about me, man. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Even though they gave me the flop the second time, but all I needed really was that first one. They said, "No, you ain't done it." But hey,
Hey,
so that's what
don't nothing
that's
get your attention more than a flop.
that man. People don't understand real pain. People don't understand real
Man,
pain till they think you out the door.
real hurt.
Real hurt.
People always ask me, was there anything inside the Michigan Department of Correction that assisted you with changing your life? Um, that helped you change? Was there a program? Anything? Well, is there anything for you that you would say helped you change?
Personally, so I don't want to destroy any program in the MDOC, but personally speaking from my experience, there was no program associated with the MDOC that helped me change. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
I had a similar experience, and I always tell people that there wasn't a specific program in the Michigan Department of Correction that helped me, but they did have a lot of things that assisted me, and I can say that they didn't hinder my personal efforts to change, and I can say that one of the biggest resources for me was the library. You know, being able to check out 7 books, I think it was, in a week. That was the most important thing for me. I got to study from different pastors. I think you introduced me to Joseph Prince and other pastors like that I've never met before, and I started reading some of their literature, getting some of that extra knowledge and understanding. So some of those things were resources for me. But what about when you got released? How many years did you end up doing total?
4.5.
4.5. When you were released, was there any reentry program or mentorship program, anything like that, to help you get adjusted to life?
Nope, nope. I think they did like a 2 weeks thing before I got released.
Man,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I advocate for now is that we really need a strong, supportive system of mentoring, and I believe that it needs to start with us. I call us returning neighbors. I don't like to
okay,
use the term felon or because you already know, brother, you're born again. You're not. That label doesn't even make sense for the guy that I am talking to today. So how can I attach that to your name, right? But
that's
I
it.
think that us returning neighbors, we need to create a structure for us that is by us,
Mm,
meaning that we need mentors that have been successful in that reentry process that can help guide young men and women through what it feels like, through the resources that are available, through every aspect of life. Because people, I think, that have never been to prison don't understand the anxiety that you get when you're first coming home and you start getting acclimated into the real world. Can you speak on that a little bit? Like, what was that like for you when you first came home?
when I first came home, all I had was goals in the Bible. That's basically it. My family, they was glad that I was home, but there really was like no guidance into what direction I should go. From there, it was just basically whatever God told me in prison. That's what I probably should start doing like right now. Um, and so from there, just got involved with my family's church, um, and then also enrolled in GRCC or Grand Rapids Community College to start my college career. Um, Originally wanted to finish learning one of the two languages, whether it was Hebrew or Arabic, because Arabic is the sister language. So I went there specifically to learn the languages, but then change um, to more of a business major, which is human resources later. Um, but yeah, there wasn't really no resources that I can remember when I first got out that I cleaved to or I went to or that was even there. Um, I guess a person needs to have a plan before before he leaves prison about what they're going to do.
Definitely, definitely. For you, you must have a plan. But I see one of the common factors. or a lot of returning neighbors that are successful, um, one of the commonalities between all of us is that we found God. And a lot of people, they frown on it or they may mock it. Like, a lot of men don't take it serious when they're incarcerated because they come home and actions may change sometimes. But I think it's just like I was talking about the anxieties and the fears when a person comes home to try to be right and do right all the time. That it's a lot on a person's mind and a lot on their
Mhm.
heart. So what I'm getting out of you is that you really relied on God, prayer, a lot of just trusting His word, and that's how you made it so far, right?
That I think, yeah, him keeping me like that. I was talking about the other day about the motions that people go through being out here. There's no coaching you through that. You have to have either been there and now are doing well to be able to relate and coach to someone, because just someone getting out um, to society and dealing with the societal norms and or your responsibilities. There's really no coaching you. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta do it. You gotta, like there's a painting about foot. I think it's, is it footprints, footsteps,
Hmm.
about basically, this path that's being made, uh, making your own path. This is a one of a kind thing.
Mm, man, that's deep. So yeah, because I get that because that's how it was for me. Um, for the first couple years, I was really lost. I remember even telling my wife we were engaged at the time. I remember telling her that my wife was just newly becoming a Christian and had just got recently baptized, her and my daughter, and she really wanted to follow the structure of the Bible's household. And I had to actually tell her, thank you, but let's reserve on that for a minute because I know as a man I'm supposed to lead, but I've had so much time in institutions and in jails that I just didn't feel comfortable making all the decisions right away. Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's because for so much time I had spent in a system that told me when I could eat, when I could go to sleep, when I could take a shower, what kind of shoes I can wear, what color sweatshirt I could buy. So for me to make all of those decisions on my own, it became overwhelming. Was that kind of how like it was for you?
yes, yep. Just into you making the decisions and you operating with, I guess, the data you learned from prison out here in society. How can that even fit in society? Because a lot of things you got to hold back because you looking like, no, that's how you respond when you locked up. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep.
And you can't really do that because they're not going to understand what you're doing. And so, yeah, it's difficult, man. It's one of a kind.
That's a fact. That's a fact. You get so institutionalized. A funny story is on that psychology. I really got interested in the psychology of people. I think that's why I gravitated to social work because I just love to work with people and how people think and the mindsets or why people do the things that we do. It interests me, so it led me down the whole trauma training and adverse childhood experiences and all of that type of field. But just to understand the human psyche, right? When I came home from prison, do you know, like the first year, I could not take a shower without having shower shoes on, flip flops.
Yeah,
It was just like this little thing that just became ingrained into my brain. Like this is just what you do. Like
yeah.
it took a while before I could really just get out of that habit of doing that. So tell people that story just to get you to understand how we as people get conditioned to our environments. And when you're in an environment like a prison, it's one of the it's a hard thing to navigate, but it's easy when you got God. I tell people that all the times. When you got God, he just manages to keep you away from everything, keep you protected, you know, keep you safe, but you still see everything. You
Yeah,
still see everything.
see everything, and I mean, you might go through it too. You might
Yeah,
go through
yeah,
those emotions. You know what I mean?
yeah. Sometimes you do, especially I call them strong tests. You know, you might get tested while you're in there just to see how your progress is going. But
Mm-hmm.
to keep that same perseverance when you get outside, that's when the challenge becomes, and that's why I do a lot of advocating for returning neighbors. I call this. I think that's what God really put me out here to do was to be a strong advocate. I think um, it was you actually who translated a dream of mine, um, and you told me about the fivefold ministries, you know, the different things, and I had the dream that I was gonna be someone that goes out, you know, bringing people back. And you told me, you said that means the one who was sent. He said you were sent out. He said you're gonna be sent out. And man, that was an extreme prophecy on my life because ever since I've been home, I'm in the community. I'm in the streets. I currently work as a veteran housing advocate. You know, working with homeless people, but I also work with children's programs. You know, I work with elderly. I work with the mental health community. I work with the substance abuse community, and God really put it on my heart to be the voice for these people, right? And to advocate for their needs and their problems, right? Because I think like we all just need a little bit of time before we can get to that point where we're ready for change and we're ready to sit down and listen to God's voice. Like sometimes it just takes us a little time to get there. And for some of us, like me and you, we have to go through things and we have to be put in an environment where we're able to listen, right? So that we can start listening to those instructions. How did you know when you got to that point in your life that you knew like you were done with living the way you were living before?
The desire, I think, to do so was slowly being taken away. Like I had a strong gambling problem, and when I was in prison, and just the desire to like gamble was it. And this is how he did it. He kept like causing me to lose. Like I would play poker, shoot dice or whatever, and I would lose every time. So I'm looking like, now wait a minute, man. You know, I do this. You know, you know. And so I stopped. I stopped gambling. I stopped wanting. I stopped wanting. I didn't even want to see a table. I didn't want to see nothing. And as I look back, I'm seeing that this is how he was sanctifying me bit by bit. To answer your question, I think it's going back to God. God sanctifying me to want to stay away from the world by bringing some type of distaste to everything that I knew that would destroy me.
Hmm.
Uh, um, and so, yeah, that's what he did.
Nice. You had a gift to me. It was like an extreme gift of breaking down the scriptures in a way that people could understand it. And I actually copied some of the things that I learned from you doing that. And I started to teach people the scriptures, like especially like hardcore street guys that never read the word or anything and just starting out and they trying to get into it. Um, I began to read those stories in a language that they can understand in a way that they can understand. Are you still like teaching people?
To be honest, I do it in a way to where it's more like one on one. If
Hmm.
I do it at all, but to be honest, I've slowed down a lot on ministry and focused strictly on school and my daughters.
Hmm.
Um, and I can build on that story as well. I can share a
Yeah.
success story.
Matter of fact, let's talk
But
about your daughters. You said you have two daughters.
I do, yeah. I
Nice. How
do.
old?
One is 8. I mean, one is 9. One is 5.
Nice. Nice. 9. That's a great age, man. My son just turned 11. They start to turn into many adults. You start to see their little things they like and they dislike, and toys start
Yeah.
to slowly disappear. You know,
And,
they start
and
asking for Jordans.
man, mine be asking for it's those videos that they watch on. Now, I don't let her watch YouTube, but there's like a kids YouTube and there's like a the Roku channel that shows these kids getting certain fashion items and stuff, and they put those brands out there. And mine knows about the brands now, so yeah, she asking
Yep.
for the brands right now.
Yep.
I'll be
Yep.
looking like, nah, you know, you can't even take care of what you got without dirtying them up. Ain't no way you go. You know what I
Man, speak on that, man. That's a funny thing. Fatherhood today, man, there's a lot of challenges. What's the hardest thing about being a girl dad in today's society?
The influences that there's a strong, and I don't know if I should get into that though, but
Hmm.
there is some things going on outside that deal with particularly women. Um, and I'm gonna share it because I know my mom probably on here too. But I talk about this all the time. But there is like a another form of spirituality going on that's like influencing a lot of women. It's like a trend. Um,
Hmm.
to me, I call it witchcraft. But the divine feminism, I think they call it.
Hmm.
That the influences are just not, uh, I guess, how to dress and how to, etc. But they got certain like ways and certain things they say that the kids pick up on. And if you're a lady and they're young ladies watching you, they're going to be like, well, whatever she's saying, whatever she's doing, this is also, something I'm interested in. This is what I want to do. Is this how you supposed to be a lady? Especially when you don't have uh, a woman of God role model in the child's life, which is my situation. I don't have that for my daughter.
Hmm.
Uh, the one she will cleave to is as this is how a lady's supposed to be would be these ladies that believe in a different form of spirituality and just that spirit itself can spread, I guess,
Hmm.
on the child to them. They will start imitating exactly what they see, and what they see will be pretty much demonic activity, or what
So,
they will start doing.
so how do you navigate that and combat that as a father who's been seeing some of the destruction that our people have gone through, that has been through prison, you know, and that has also seen the power of God and change in your life? How do you navigate that with your children?
Uh, you number one, definitely stay in prayer always. Talk to God about the situations that's going on. Number two, protect the eyelids of the children. Make sure they're not watching, you know, basically garbage. Make sure they're not watching anything they're not supposed to be watching at the age that they are. And number three, you got to be around, because if
Hmm.
it's not what they're watching, is the peers that they are around. You can't really go to school with the kids because adults are not allowed to be there. But you should check up on them every day about what happened at school, or what happened at your friend's house, or whatever. You just stay on them to where you know exactly anything and everything that's going around.
Definitely. Great advice. Great advice. What would you say to the young man that's listening that might be halfway? Uh, I call them straddling the fence. They're thinking about changing their life, thinking about going to God, but they just too involved in the world to really make that change. What would you say to that young person right now?
If if it's not if it's not today, then when are you gonna make that decision? God has been talking to you for a very long time. This ain't the first time that someone's been reaching out to you and you heard his voice and you got interested and sparked to where you like, I think I need to start going back to church, or I need to give my life to Jesus. This ain't the first time. What God wants you to know, young man, is when it's going to be the time. Because tomorrow is not promised. Tomorrow is something that he tells us don't worry about. You should make the change today to be safe. And the only way to do that is to reach out to Jesus and ask him to come in your heart and convert you and bring you into the kingdom.
Facts, facts. Man, my brother, you powerful. You need to. I know you said you took a break, and I know how life is. The cares of this world keep us distracted from the mission that God puts on our lives a lot of times. Uh, but you have a powerful gift, and I can't wait till you can get back to being more in the ministry and doing more of that. I did definitely like seeing that on Facebook. Um, so, do you have a plan eventually, um, maybe to open up your own church or to be a pastor of your current church? Do you have any of that type of ambition or goals?
Yeah, I don't have a date, but I do have a desire. I say that.
I could feel that. I could feel that. You might want to wait until you get a little bit of grays in that beard a little bit, so they can respect the wisdom a little bit.
A little bit.
Cause he's still a young man.
That's true. That's
That's
true.
true. You got time, man. But I know you're gonna do some amazing things, man. Especially with I tell a lot of young pastors to really like use this technology, man. This platform that we're on, actually, right now, it has a Bible feature where you can actually you can put the Bible up on the other half of the screen, and you can actually break down the word on the live, and you can broadcast that video to Facebook, YouTube at the same time, Instagram at the same time. So you can really connect and build with your church followers in this new way with the technology like that. We've never had that before, and I think people are thirsty for that. One thing I enjoyed about prison that we used to do was we had groups and sessions where we could study together, and actually break down the word. Or I remember, times where we were on lockdown and I'd be sitting on my bunk and I'd have a question and I could just write that question down because I know when I go see Brother JD on the yard, hey, Brother JD, what did this mean when he said this? We could sit down and talk about it. I think a lot of churches missing that. I haven't seen too much of that fellowship together, really breaking down and getting into the word like that. Especially a lot of our churches in our neighborhood. Um, so I would love to see a lot more pastors start to engage with people in that way, actually breaking down the word because um, I don't know how it is in your church, but I grew up traditionally in like Baptist churches, right? And I remember I had a personal family mentor when I came home. He was into real estate and things like that, Caucasian man, and he was a Jehovah Witness, and he kept begging me, "Come on, brother, come to my church." Let me check it out. And I kept saying, oh, I understand Jehovah Witness, but I don't really, believe like that. He says, well, you got to come to find out, see. So I said, okay, I'll come. Let me see what they actually do. And I was actually blown away by the service because in the way they structure the service is like there's not a bunch of they don't do a lot of praise and worship. They don't do that at all. They do a little bit of it, but for the majority of church services, actually just reading the word, getting that word in people. And I thought that was interesting. I said, man, a lot of our people traditionally, I know my grandma had a Bible on her nightstand. There was one on the coffee table, but you could sometimes count how many times it get cracked open. And when it does, it's usually the same verses, over and over again. And it's very rare to find people that have actually read the book from cover to cover. It's rare for me to meet someone to say they've actually done that. So I think that if we did that more and actually got people the word, the full word, and then giving them the full breakdown of that word, I think that would be more impactful than some of the message preaching that we get today. Um,
Okay.
I think you would be really powerful in that type of ministry. Really powerful because people don't have an understanding of the word because we get our information so quick. It's in the quick format, or we have to hear it from someone else to believe it. And I think when you have someone actually breaking it down, it helps the people who don't have time to read and learn things like that. We do have a follower comment that says, "How important is family support after release and during incarceration?" Ooh, that's crucial. You go ahead and answer that. I'm gonna give them my answer after you.
Importance, I would say, very important because there is a. Well, I'll put it like this, because this is very deep, really. Um, Sometimes you're not supposed to have support from your family. I'm gonna break that down. Basically, Jesus, uh, when he was in his hometown, he said he had to leave because um, he couldn't do many works there. The faith was little, and people knew him, and they were not going to respect him as the prophet and the Christ as any other city would. And he said a prophet has not does not have respect or has respect in any other place except in his hometown. So he left Nazareth and went to another area. And he did not count on the support of that area he was from, his hometown.
Mm,
That's why I said sometimes uh, you're not supposed to receive or really count on the support of your family during and after. Basically, saying it depends on your calling. Whatever, uh, whoever, not whoever, but whatever your calling is that God has given you, it depends on that whether support from your family during or after is important. I'm gonna say that. As a regular person, I would say yes because there is a sense of belonging. You need to belong somewhere. You need to have somewhere where you can build backbone, where you can build structure, um, refuge. But it depends. Going back to what I'm saying, it depends on um, your calling.
yes, I agree. And I'm just gonna add, uh, I'm a trauma specialist, so I take it always from through that lens of trauma and family trauma, having family trauma. The biggest healer of adverse childhood experiences and effects of trauma on your brain is to have a loving support system. So I think that that is the single most important thing that returning neighbor needs is a supportive, s- structured system. You know, whether it be mom, dad, friends, bosses, um, those are going to help a person acclimate to society. The people that don't have any support system, it's just way harder to change. And I can tell you the reasons why is because of, you know, just the economics in the world. My friends that come home and don't have a family to come home to, and they end up getting paroled to the shelter or paroled to a halfway house. You know, they get there and they don't have the same support that I had when I came home. You know, I came home to my mother, to my stepfather who was a minister, you know, so they were able to buy me a coat, buy me some work boots, you know, do things like that to help support me on my journey. So for me, that family support and structure was huge. But you can find that in many different ways. And I kind of spoke on that a little bit earlier. You can also use the church to be that same support system, or it can be another type of organization if it's not church. But I think that to have some type of support when you're released is gonna be a lot of the answers to whether you're successful or not. Um, because you can come home and then to piggyback off of what you said, sometimes your family can be too supportive, and it actually becomes a hindrance to your change. Uh, because mom loves you so much, you know, sometimes we can do no wrong in mama's eyes. And sometimes mama not, you know, not strong willed enough to say sometimes, hey baby, look, you're moving too fast. You need to slow down. So it it definitely depends on the situation. But it's funny that you use that story about Jesus, what he said, a prophet cannot be a prophet in his hometown. And that is so true. Uh, I'm a business owner and I became a small business owner. And it's funny how being that I've changed my life and I've gone about this mission the way I have, you still meet some people that knew the old you, the
Hmm.
you that's been buried in the ground for over 10 years now. and
Hmm.
and
Yep.
they can't detach the two. They see you and they just have to tie in that old person. Um, and I think that was one of the reasons why Jesus said he couldn't do any miracles here. Like nobody believes in anything because they still looking at me like the carpenter's son.
That's right.
You know, how can I listen to the carpenter's son? He ain't got no knowledge.
Right.
Instead of seeing me for who I am now, you still see me for what I used to be. And that is that is hard when you're trying to change. You got people still trying to attach the old you, and that's why it is important to make sure that when you are released, that your support system is positive and they align with your mission and
And
what God
go.
has called you to do.
Hmm.
Because if they're not, no matter how much they love you, no matter how supportive they are, you can be led down the wrong path if you're not with the right support system. Uh, and just for an example, you know, I have three children, three different mothers. You know, one of my children's mother, you know, they could support you, but they'd support you during the wrong things, doing the negative things, and they only support that version of you.
Right.
So if you keep attaching to people like that, they will only encourage you and force you into that direction of more of the negative person because they don't align with this other person. Um, and the scriptures talk about that with being unequally yoked. And I think you were speaking on that as well a little bit.
a
How
little bit.
important is that, man, when you're in your journey, man, as a young minister, to being equally yoked?
I believe the picture of that is two ox carrying the carriage, and basically the carriage can't move if one side of the chamber is loose, or if it's unbalanced. If there's any unbalance, there is no movement. There is no tillage of the ground. There is no crops, basically. So um, without having the compatibility uh, of someone who can understand and move with you, you're not going anywhere.
There it is. There it is. So that's the answer, I think, to that question. Very important, but it's also very important that you choose the right support system. And that's one thing that I was fortunate. I know I haven't spoken to you in a while, um, especially since I got out. I got married, I met my
Yeah.
wife who was very supportive, and we were on the same mindset. You know, we were both tired of living the way that we used to live, and we were ready for change, ready to do something different. And I think when you get to that level, when you meet someone, that God brings someone like that to you, it does make the process a lot easier because you start to build these roots into the community. I think the numbers on that, I think the recidivism rate drops significantly. I think it's by 60 to 70% for people who establish roots in the community when they come home. It's like you drastically reduce your chances of going back by creating those roots in the community. So understanding that, building a family, having something to really live for is very important for someone coming home. Once you come home from prison, establishing your roots, and that don't have to be starting a family or anything like that. You don't have to go drastic, even though that does happen sometimes. Um, but it really does help because for you, like you have two daughters, so that thought is always in your mind. I have two daughters. There are two little girls that need me to be here. I have to be here. Now, I don't need my parole officer to tell me why I need to be here because I know, as a man, I know why I need to be here. I have this every day. So now, when I get into the situation and the guy shoulder checks me in the store, I can say, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me." When before I might have reacted a different way, you know, I can actually sit back and say, "Man, my daughters need me to be here. It's not that serious." you know. So having them roots, I think, is what really helps people stay home and stay free. My guy Southside Jones, salute my guy. That's another guy. My guy Jones was one of my best friends and mentors. He also is a returning neighbor too, so he was able to come into my life and show me the ropes. Like this is how you get out and stay out. You
Right.
know, I've started to build my network of people and friends, and I started to learn that real friends, we don't tell our boys or we don't post or say free my boys when they get locked up. We don't do that. We tell our boys to stay free. Stay
Yeah.
free.
Hmm.
Ain't no need for you to be there. So building those real relationships and having that solid foundation like they talk about in the scriptures, having that solid foundation built on rock. I think that's the number one thing because even if you don't get anything else in prison, having that solid foundation is important because it can be built upon, right? You develop a strong foundation for yourself, and I'm really interested to see um, the path that God leads you on, man. I'm really interested to see that because I know for myself, I would have never guessed in a million years that God would use me the way that He uses me. being the voice for people, arguing for people, fighting for them on their behalf. I never would have thought that that would be me, doing that. I used to be a heartless guy that didn't care for other people, and now all of a sudden I have a heart and I cry at cat videos and stuff. You know what I mean? Like all of a
Come on
sudden
now.
this stuff,
No, we can't. We ain't going that
this
far.
changes me, man. I'm serious, man. I'm serious. Like stuff it gets to me where it didn't used to get to me before. You know, like I tell people, I think that God does that. Like He says, He chooses the weak things of the world to shame the strong, right? I was one of those, like you said, one of the strong, mouth alpha, macho, super tough guy. You disrespect me, I'm like a rattlesnake. I'm striking first, and having that attitude, reckless, didn't care about anybody or anyone, and to have all of a sudden God place a heart upon you that starts to care, and you have empathy, and you think about people, and you think about the things and the plights, the destruction that they're going through as well. Um, it's really amazing when you think about it, like how you can just go from this end of the spectrum totally to this end of the spectrum through that transformation and that change. Thank you very much for that comment, Miss. Is that Ayla? How do I pronounce that?
Yeah, and shout out to Brian Stewart too. That's my guy here
Brian,
watching.
shout out, man. We appreciate you for tuning in. It's definitely been an amazing conversation. We closing in on our hour, and I would love to do this again, man. This is nice.
Oh
I'd have
yeah,
to see if we can track down the old team, man. uh,
that's another conversation. Yeah,
I know
that's,
that's another
you
conversation we gotta have at another time.
you gonna turn this into the Breakfast Club. You
Yeah.
gotta put the other two. Yeah.
Hey, everybody journey a little different.
Man,
Sometimes you gotta take the long way, man. I've come to realize that.
that's right.
But just gotta keep moving, man. That's all we do, man. Well, definitely appreciate you, man, for taking the time to come and check with us. Um, keep focused, man. You're doing great things. Uh, I follow your page. I know I don't always be around in prison, but just to let you know, I see you. And when
Oh
I
yeah.
see you, I just like to salute you and congratulate you because uh, even though I don't say anything, I'm watching, you know, and just watching helps me stay focused. It helps me be inspired and stay inspired and stay locked in because, like you said, to be able to check in on someone who had a similar experience as you and to see how they're doing afterwards and you see that they're still doing good, that's like yeah, that's my dog right there. They ain't get that one. You know what I'm saying? They ain't gonna get that brother. I
Right.
know it. Like I know it. Like they ain't gonna get that brother no more. And we gotta salute those wins, man, because the numbers show that we not supposed to be here.
Mm, that's right.
We not supposed to be here. I was
Hmm.
told that my whole life. I wouldn't make it to see 20 years old. And the statistics say that that is most likely the case, that we are not supposed to be here. And having been formerly incarcerated, it still says that we're not supposed to be here. We didn't even get to speak on that, man. Before we go, I gotta have you speak on that. That felon label, has that stopped you or hindered you in any way of your life now? Because I know here they can deny you a house just because you have a felony. Does
Hmm.
that happen to you in Grand Rapids?
I would say it's a huge problem. Housing is one of the ways they keep you out of anything is turning over properties to property management companies that's going to been basically told do not house anybody with crimes that are considered felonies, right? Basically felonies. Um, yeah, it's a huge thing, man. You can't. It's been obstacles to find housing, whether you try to use a private landlord or not. It's been obstacles of trying to obtain certain jobs that then called me back for an interview that was ready to, place me, and boom, they ran a background check, and it was like, well, no, we can't do that. Even after I done talked to you, and we done,
Had this
uh,
conversation.
we had this conversation, and I done, gave you basically the things that I've done to where I was the fit for the job. I done had jobs that I was already started, that
Mm,
they ran the background check and they said they had to retract my offer letter and employment. And I was like, oh, I ain't
mm,
never heard nothing like that. You know what I mean?
wow.
Uh, so yeah, it's been obstacles definitely, but there has also been blessings to it as well. I
Mm-hmm.
guess some companies are looking to diversify their company,
Mm-hmm.
and they will place you just because you have a certain color and you come have a different background, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah,
I tell brothers all the time, use it. Use it. Hey,
yeah,
I'll be a DEI hire if you need me to be. Whatever
yeah,
we gotta do to get those jobs, brothers. It's tough, man. I know it, man. That was my story, and uh, it's so hard, man, when you're trying to lead as a Christian man in today's society, especially if you have that felony on your record. Because
yeah,
now my very earning potentials now is has has man, it's decreased drastically.
yeah, yep.
You know, so now my ability to be a man now is limited
Limited. Yeah,
because of how you've done. Like it got to the point so bad. My wife gets punished because I'm a felon. We were
right.
filling out applications for housing, and like you said, $45 application fees per adult. You know, you do that a couple times and you get denied just because you have a felony over 8 years old, and you're like, this is not fair. Why does my wife have to suffer because of my past actions? You know, things that I've already paid the price for. You know, job opportunities, income, earnings that I could have had that now are being stripped away from me because I have this felony on my record. That's something that I always try to advocate for, man. And I want to give, before I go, I want to give you two companies I want you to check out, man. There are two nonprofits here that are here in Michigan. One of them started in Grand Rapids, and it's an organization called Nation Outside, and they deal
Yeah,
with policy changes for people that were formerly incarcerated. So I've worked with them in the past, and they do a lot of advocating for policy work. They were big in the law that just passed, the clean slate law that automatically wipes away so many felonies, that you can get so many felonies taken off now. They were very impactful in that movement. Um, they were very impactful on the new law that just passed, SB 107. I can't remember the number of it, but it's basically a law that says if you're on a short stay in prison and you have a nonviolent crime and you get a terminal illness in prison, instead of having you die in prison, you get a special parole so that you can go home, right? And that
mm.
was just passed this year. I actually got to speak in front of legislation in front of the Michigan Senate to advocate for that because, you know, the people that
Uh,
make the laws, they never been
uh,
behind the cell. You know what I mean? They never
right.
been in. They don't know what goes on, so they need us guys like us to advocate and to speak and give those stories so that they can get that understanding of why they need to do something. So Nation Outside is one of those groups that advocate for real change, and the main base is in Grand Rapids. If you connect with them, um, they do like monthly meetings. They get together, working on some of the legislative policies that they're doing, but they have a lot of resources. And with them being a nonprofit, um, they're also able to put a couple dollars in your pocket sometimes. Like I've worked for them doing different events and things like that, and they were able to bless me with a stipend here and there. Um, they're also working on the first prisoner reentry program ran by formerly incarcerated people. So that is going to be a paid position hourly, great wages, livable wages, not no $17 an hour. We're talking about a real wage, you know,
Okay.
um, with benefits. So that position is coming soon, and I know that they're going to launch it in Grand Rapids first. You would be a great guy for that position. Um, the second organization I want you to look up is called Safe and Just Michigan. This is also a major nonprofit that I've worked with in the past. They even did once. They were looking for formerly incarcerated people to run a fellowship with, and they gave me $5,000 to participate in a 90-day fellowship where they taught me how to do fundraising for large organizations and grant writing. You know, so just because I had a felony, this nonprofit had an opportunity for me, and it was able to help sustain me during that time. You know, so use those type of organizations because you never know what that can come into. Like doing this type of work in the community service field, I got connected with like nonprofits, and then I started to become like getting hired by nonprofits. And one thing about nonprofits is they're not looking at the felony. Like I work for a major nonprofit right now, and I think my position requires a bachelor's degree normally because it's a social worker. I'm a social worker essentially, but they skip all of that and they look at personal experience. What
Right.
experience do you have that says that you can do this job? And so my life experience has got me this position, but it's opened up my eyes to this world of nonprofits and how that they have a place for us, especially people like us. So start to look for some of these local nonprofits that's out there in Grand Rapids because you might be surprised, man. That they're looking for brothers like you. Like seriously. Brothers like you that can articulate like really good. You have the education, you have the background, and you have the voice that they can use for the missions that they have. And I think like me personally, that's why I've chosen to work with nonprofits because like that's God gave me this opportunity, right? And the best way to reward him for that opportunity is probably to save other people. I think in my mind, that's how I think. Like so working for nonprofit allows me to do that. I get to speak for the formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters when issues come up. I get to advocate on their behalf, like, hey, we need Bibles in this jail. How can we get people to change their life if we don't got a Bible?
Yeah.
Like you said, some of the basic things, man. How can we change if we don't have adequate housing for these brothers and sisters when they come home? You know,
Right.
just things like that, man. So I definitely wanted to give you that. And they on Facebook too, both of those agencies. If you'll look them up, you can see even some of the work that I've done personally with those agencies. They posted on the Facebook pages and some of the different groups and things that they have going on. But I think it'll be a good resource for you, man. Connect with my Grand Rapids brothers.
Definitely. Nation outside. Well, okay.
Yeah,
Just send me those two names, and then I'm gonna look. I'm definitely gonna look into.
yeah, I
Uh,
got you. I'm gonna actually just send you both of their pages, man. We ain't gonna hold it up. Get the
okay.
direct connection. Direct connection. And if you guys are watching, um, my people from Nation Outside or Safe and Just Michigan, man, reach out to this brother right here, man. He'll be amazing. Addition to y'all team, to the mission. I personally know him, and I definitely vouch for him. And I know that you would love to have the resources that this brother has available for y'all. That's my plug for you, my guy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Man, it's been a good episode, man. I appreciate you for tapping in, man. It's been real, man. I don't want to hold you up too long, too much longer. But we just want to say thank you. Stay focused. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep being the strong leader that you are. And I know God got something special for you, brother.
Thank you, man. Hey, I'm gonna keep doing that. You keep doing what you're doing as well. And I see you doing big things. I salute you all the way from Grand Rapids.
Yes, sir. My guy, we got to get up and do some lunch sometime.
Definitely, man.
All right, man.
I
Bless
know
up,
I know
brother.
the spots. I know the spots.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know you do, and I'll be
Yeah.
up that way too. So we'll make it happen.
All right.
All right, brother.